My name's Catherine James. I'm the Manager of Community Engagement for the New South Wales Rural Fire Service, which is located in Australia. Yes, so our engagement preparedness framework has really been driven by the need for us to change, I guess, the language and the approach to engagement, particularly in the emergency services sector. We've had the opportunity to really set the framework up to help us use community engagement to reduce risk for our communities that live here in New South Wales, particularly from the bush and grass fire threat. Um, and the framework really came at a point in time where we've just had a new strategic direction released by a new commissioner that came in last year, and we're refocusing our efforts on community safety. But also, we've seen a significant change in the population and demographics within the last 5 years, particularly since COVID. And so you would have seen on the news over there the 2019-2020 bushfire seasons were particularly devastating. We've had a lot of people who potentially were not previously experienced in fire moving into fire-prone areas. So this has given us a really good chance to look at what we're doing in engagement, how we're really using it to help communities prepare and plan and make safer decisions if they're under threat from bush or grass fire.
What interestingly, because I mean, none of this work is easy. What challenges have you faced in producing this kind of framework?
I guess probably the size of New South Wales is one of the biggest challenges. Geographically, it's like trying to get the Irish, Scots, Welsh, English, French, Italians, and Spanish to all have a similar sort of approach. And so the way we've approached this is we've identified a bit of a consistent language that we're using, and also the ability to kind of scale and pilot that engagement that may work in different parts of the state. But I guess also that the challenges is that each community in New South Wales is so very different that there isn't a one size fits all approach. So we've had to build a fair bit of flexibility into the framework to give us that capacity to adapt and change to whatever our communities need. And also adapt to, I think, the changing in technology. We know that is a big challenge in terms of the technology that we have today is different and more advanced from 5 years ago. What's that going to be like in another 5 years' time? So, I guess those societal challenges that we all face on a day-to-day basis, how do we set that up for the framework to make sure that we're being effective in 5 years' time as well? Yeah, so we've got four key streams in the framework, which is really going to let us focus our efforts, but also put measurement in to demonstrate what we're doing and how we're actually tracking and delivering and making a difference. So stream number one is prepared communities. This really focuses on the practical steps that our communities take in terms of preparing, planning, making safe decisions before, during, and after bush and grass fires. We've got capable members, which focuses on our RFS volunteers, our staff, in terms of how to effectively engage with communities, be skilled around our key messages, our warnings, our information, and help people actually stress test their plans and what they're thinking. Third stream is future ready. So this is looking at the tools, resources, activities, and making sure that they're based on the best evidence available, they're consistent with best practice, and that they're going to be effective for the different communities that we serve. And then the final stream is called Impact Informed. And this really was driven from the inquiry that happened after the bad bushfires of 2019 and 2020. We have been very good at engaging, but not very good at measuring and evaluating how effective we've been. So it's really trying to put some consistency, common language, and common systems around that.
And one of the things that I know often is a problem, certainly in the UK, is that sort of getting communities interested in this whole kind of being prepared and what to expect and that being more resilient. How have the communities, and you said they're very different, how have they responded to kind of your work to develop this?
We had a lot of consultation. Our volunteers were a very strongly led volunteer organisation. Our volunteers live and work in the communities that we serve. So the consultation piece that we did with our staff and volunteers, as well as experts in the field as well, was one of the key things that kind of underpinned the framework. Getting those ideas and understanding the challenges that people faced in getting that engagement. We kind of live in a society now where things have to be instant. It's hard to plan for the future. We have Uber Eats because we can't even plan to have food in the house for dinner. So it definitely is a challenge that we
Yeah.
face in terms of helping people plan for something that may or may not happen. And so that will be something that we'll look at as we progress through the framework, and I would say adapt our approaches as we get more evidence and research in those areas. I think it really ties us in with the intention of using engagement to help people reduce their risk. It's not PR, it's not necessarily recruitment, but it's really got a very particular purpose so that we have a way to kind of change not only the systems that we use to undertake engagement, but also really driving that change in community behaviour as well, but supporting that with them to make sure that they can just make very safe decisions, or as safe decisions as they possibly can, depending on what situation that they face.
And is there any advice you would give to, I know some often we get emergency kind of planners and the communicators watching this. Any advice you'd give to them if they're starting to or they are working on something similar?
I think probably consultation is the key, but also having a very clear understanding of what the end goal and need is. Um, there's a lot of different ways to skin a cat essentially, but it's kind of staying true to what the purpose is and having that. I mean, our mission is very much around community safety and risk reduction, and so having it through that lens was really helpful for us in terms of working out what did have to go in and what could maybe be excluded from the framework for this version. But I would say that as we go through the next 5 years, the engagement that we end up with at the end of that will probably look quite different to from what we're doing now. I would say there'll be an evolution, and that's quite exciting because we get to adapt and I guess innovate as well as part of this framework, and kind of respond to what happens in our communities, but also in the world as well. I guess probably for us, we're in quite a unique position as the RFS, and one of our greatest strengths is our volunteer force. We have incredibly passionate, knowledgeable people about that local risk, and so our framework really wouldn't be anything if we didn't have them to be able to help implement and feedback and keep us on track and staying true to what we should be doing to serve the community.